Happy Thanksgiving and welcome to CrimeCon at Home Holiday Escape. My name is Stephanie Gomolka. I'm a digital correspondent with Oxygen.com, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's special event. On behalf of everyone at CrimeCon, we are so excited about how many of you gathered with family and friends to watch tonight's special together. Just like Thanksgiving dinner, we've got a little bit of everything for you in this event. You're going to laugh, learn, and look at true crime in a whole new way tonight. From an inside look at the heroic efforts of 911 call center operators to a body language expert, from the Murdoch murders case to Dateline's Keith Morrison on his latest podcast, from must-know holiday safety tips to must-watch shows and documentaries on our holiday binge list, we have so much in store for you tonight. As always, CrimeCon organizers want to thank Oxygen for its support in making events like these happen, and for everyone who is ready to get back out there for live events. Just a reminder that CrimeCon 2022 is in Las Vegas next April 29th to May 1st. Now, let's get Holiday Escape started with a conversation with a few heroes from the amazing team featured in Oxygen's new series, 911 Crisis Center. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our panel focused on Oxygen's all-new show, 911 Crisis Center. Today we have joining us Supervisor Dispatcher Charlene Polk, Dispatcher Jessica Murkowski, and Executive Producer of the show, Adam Casson. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so exciting and so nice to see you, especially with the show just premiering on Oxygen. So Adam, backing up, tell me about what it's like for you to produce true crime shows and how 911 Crisis Center is different.
911 is something that is, I never knew these people did this in the way that they do. I just had no idea. And it was even more shocking to me because I deal so much with 911 calls in these true crime series that we do. And so you often have the show and the 911 call starts it and you hear the crime, but you never really think about the dispatcher. You don't think of them as humans. You think of them as just doing something and they pass it on to the people who actually do the real thing and solve the case, right? And for me, the first time it dawned on me was I was at work and I had to call 911. And I was so amazed with the way that dispatcher handled me to get me to shut up and get me to focus on my task and help save this person who give her attention, who had passed out and needed attention. She luckily was okay and she lived. And it was the most traumatic thing that happened to me in months and months and months. But for him, I could hear on the phone him jumping to another call as he was getting off with me. And it wasn't even a blip in his radar, and really started to make me think more about these people as humans. Like, how can you capture that? How can you actually be able to spend an evening with them in that room? And that's what the idea with this program is to actually be able to sit there and feel like you're in the room with them and feel like you understand what they're going through and how amazing they actually are at handling these calls and saving these people's lives. And the one, the biggest compliment that they've given to us about the program is how authentic and real that it actually feels, is how we capture what they do in a way they hadn't seen before, and made me feel really good, because that was our number one job, was how can we actually capture these folks, shine the much deserved light that they deserve, and showcase them as these amazing heroes that they are, these unsung heroes. They are the first responders.
Yeah, there's so much you brought up that I can't wait to get Jessica and Charlene's take on. The first being just what your day-to-day life is like, because he's right, there's that intense call, whether it be 30 seconds, 5 minutes of someone's life, but that is what's coming in for you both, throughout your entire work day. About how many calls do you answer within a day, and what would you describe a typical day at your job is like?
We get anywhere from 200 to 500 calls per day. It depends on the day of the week, the hour, and there's no such thing as a typical day. You can go from a cat in a tree to someone being shot to someone wanting to kill themselves. So we never say in the dispatch world that there's ever a typical day. You never know what you're going to get.
How about for you, Jessica?
Yeah, it all depends on the day. It could be a random Tuesday that you get the most calls ever that week, and then it could be a Saturday when you think it's going to be a lot busier and it's dead, it's slow, which again is something you don't want to say when you're in the room, because then that's when stuff hits the fan. But yeah, you never know. That's that's one of the good things about this job, or the cool things about the job. You never know what the day is going to be like. It's something new every single day.
Can you both describe for me the most bizarre, maybe it's a non-emergency call that you had to take?
I mean, there's so many different like types of bizarre. It blows my mind when people complain about silly things. They're calling 911 because their brother, like these are adult people calling 911 because their brother ate their bag of Doritos. And or somebody came home from vacation, and their neighbor who thought they were doing something special for them cut their grass, but they were unhappy because they cut the grass too low than what they normally cut it. It's like, you're calling 911 for this? Like, they were trying to be nice.
My favorite calls are the restaurant calls. I didn't get cheese on my cheeseburger. My pizza didn't have the right toppings. I didn't get enough fries. They forgot my ketchup. Really? Over 911. This is what you're doing. Those are my favorite.
Wow. That's kind of crazy that you guys get those kind of calls. We
Right.
also got some viewer questions too that I'd like to get to as well. Someone asked, are you ever scared to answer the phone?
I have been scared to answer a phone right after a traumatic call when you have to regroup and get yourself together. You try to take that deep breath and say, okay, I got a job to do, but your heart is still racing like, what next? What is this call?
Yeah, someone else asked this, and I wonder if it's something that a lot of dispatchers deal with. You often work in your own communities. Are you ever afraid, or has anyone ever answered the phone and it's a family member calling?
Yeah, I actually took a 911 call from my father who was, he wasn't sure if he was having a heart attack or a stroke. And it's like 911, what's your emergency? And I hear my father's voice. And I went in daughter mode for 2 seconds and I'm like, Daddy? And he says my name and he's like, I'm like, well, what's going on? It's back into professional mode. I go through the questionings, I get the address, I get the ambulance going, I let him know help is on the way. I had to put being a daughter to the side and go into dispatch mode. But once I got all the information, got the ambulance going, it's like, okay, Daddy, relax, help is on the way, what's going on, just talk to him, father to daughter at that time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, I took in a call from my brother. He was involved in a head-on collision on the highway on his way to work one night during a snowstorm. And so, yeah, it's terrifying, but you just gotta put your dispatcher hat on and do your job.
Wow. Yeah. And I know you both probably kept working, which is a feat in itself. How do you de-stress from a call that's, high intensity?
You either get up, take a walk, move on to the next call to take your mind off the call you just took. We encourage getting up and walking away if it's that deep for you. Sometimes you can just move on without a problem. It all depends.
Yeah, we also like lean on each other a lot too. So your partners, everybody in the room, they could feel your energy. So they know if they can come and talk to you, make you laugh a little bit, do something silly just to get your mind off of what you just went through. And then also, like Charlene said, yeah, we encourage each other to, like, if you need a breather, take a break. And sometimes initially right after your call, you don't realize that you need a break because your adrenaline's going, your heart's pumping. But once you calm down from that, then you're like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm gonna step away for a second just to regain my composure and then move on.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I think stood out to me in the show was the relationships between you all. And as Adam mentioned before, that teamwork, and you can kind of see it between you two now, how close you are. Describe that for me. What is it like in the workplace? How do you team up on calls? If someone's on the call, how does that work in terms of, someone else is helping dispatch certain services that are needed?
You kind of listen to the room. When you hear someone on a call and it's a serious call, you automatically go into team mode. It's like, okay, what are they going to need? Are they going to need something that they, don't have? If it's not their band that they work in, do they need police? Are they going to need EMS? What can I do for them? Do I need to call the electric company, the gas company? Do I need to call another agency? So once we hear one another take a call, you kind of go into, what do I need to help my fellow comrade get through this call? So you just automatically just, whatever way you can help out, you listen and you do it.
Yeah, we'll all start calling out like, hey, if we have a structure fire or something, we know we're going to need mutual aid from other agencies. Everybody in the room just starts calling out, okay, I'm going to call them. I'm going to call them. I got this, I got that. Or let's say somebody's stuck on a serious 911 call and they can't listen to their radio traffic. We'll call out, okay, I got your radio ban. You worry about the caller that you're speaking with right now. We got you.
Yeah. And speaking to that kind of unpredictability about how your day is going to go, Adam, for you, in terms of producing the show, what was that like? I mean, for typical true crime shows that you might know at least the case that you're going to cover, walking into the dispatch center for you guys to film, what was that like for you?
I mean, I should ask them too what it was like them for us. I felt like we were another element for you all, right? Swimming around. And our job really felt like, I was there, and then we had an amazing team work with this woman, Shannon O'Rourke, who's our co-executive producer, who was there leading the charge. And that was what made it so special. It's like, you didn't know what was going to happen at any time. I mean, you could, when you thought it was quiet and you thought, I mean, just like, and they would be joking for a second about something and look like they're at a picnic, eating some food and having a good time. And then it could be, there's a fire with 3 buildings on fire and a baby stuck, in it, and they're helping, and and Charlene's taking charge and getting them all together in charge. So that's part of what it just feels like, a nonstop adrenaline rush while you're there just viewing it. So I can't even imagine being in their seat having to operate in that. Like, I feel like after I watched a call that was so intense, I had to take a moment and take a break, and I was just a passive viewer of it. And so it's what makes the show really so special. One of the things it does is you just don't know what's going to come over that phone. And like they were just giving some examples, it could be from the absurd to, somebody's life is on the line, literally.
Yeah.
Can I ask, I mean, for you guys, because I know we talked about it before, but because it seemed like at first, we got in the room, we had this experiment, we were going around with the cameras. Did that, it took you all got used to it afterwards, right?
Yeah, so at first, obviously, it's different having a camera in your face, and our job is stressful enough that we want to make sure that we're always doing the right thing. And then just having a camera staring at you the whole time and recording everything that you're doing, it's a little nerve-wracking at first, but then you completely forget about it. And I feel like the camera crew did a great job of like being there recording stuff, but also like staying back, and like if we needed a little bit of space, they gave it to us, and then they would come in and ask us the questions that they needed to. But yeah, I mean, in this job, you can't really let outside things affect what you're doing. You just have to go into dispatcher mode and do what you're supposed to do.
And sorry, I forgot, I'm not really supposed to be asking the questions. I'm so used to asking you guys questions all day long.
No, jump in. It's interesting.
It's so funny because once we're in the heat of a call, you don't realize the camera's there until after you're off the call, and you be like, oh yeah, you guys are here, welcome. And it also helped, believe it or not, with our decompression, because right after we get off a call, you guys are like, so what was that like? And it's the funniest thing, because we are describing our job. It's a job for us, but you guys are excited to know what that was all about. So it gives us time to decompress, go over the call with you. So it was like you guys were a good inspiration and decompressor for us. So we kind of helped each other out with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's got to be cool when there's like a really great call. Maybe you helped someone do CPR successfully, and it's like, did you get that on camera? A small layer of that for sure. Someone else asked I don't know what this is. They mentioned the Q word. Are there superstitions that you all have as dispatchers? What does that mean? Can you tell us? Can you share that with us?
You don't say the Q word, whether you're a cop, a paramedic, a firefighter. Across the board, state to state, it is all the same. I've learned you don't say the Q word when we have downtime. And the Q word, since I'm not at work right now, is quiet. When you say quiet, everything goes wrong. So you're not allowed to say the Q word around a dispatcher, a paramedic, or a fireman, or an officer. None of that. No Q words.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay. And then, so we talked about the different types of calls. So, there's CPR calls, maybe, drunken bar calls, maybe some type of medical emergency. Tell me about the type of training a dispatcher has to go through.
Dispatchers across the world, if they don't have them in their agency, should have. A lot of people are nervous about giving first aid via phone because they don't want to be sued or things like that. But we're backed by so many medical agencies until we relax on that end. We're trained, again, we're certified from the Red Cross to everybody, everyone else in between when it comes to the medical field. Again, EMD, emergency medical dispatching, should be across the board in every dispatch center. It gives us the right to give pre-arrival instruction that may save any and everybody's life until paramedics get there. You do have dispatch centers that don't allow them to do CPR in pre-arrival instructions. And I think that should really change because it does make a difference. A minute makes a difference.
And, it's the holiday season. I am curious too, is there a high call volume during the holidays? It's, Black Friday. Do you guys get Black Friday shopping calls? What are those like?
A lot of our agencies have a bunch of stores, shopping, and you have to remember, everybody's fighting. Black Friday, everybody's fighting. Somebody's getting busted in the nose over a TV for $188. Also, you go into dinner, you're with family you haven't seen in years. You get a little alcohol in you and you get a little brave and you want to tell that family member you haven't seen off in years, So, oh yeah, the holidays are wild.
We actually have a clip from the show with the call you answer, Charlene. Let's take a look.
911, where's your emergency?
Hi, yes, I'm on drive. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, please.
What's going on and what's the address on?
I don't know. Oh, God.
What's going on? What's the ambulance for?
The ambulance is for he's not breathing. He's just making noise in his tongue. It's coming out of his mouth.
Okay, do me a favor. Are you there by yourself?
Yes, it's...
Engine 1, Squad 1, respond for full arrest.
Engine 1, Squad 1 responding.
How old is he?
He is 62.
Okay. Can you get him to the floor? Drag him to the floor, even if you have to drag him by your clothes. We're going to do CPR until the ambulance get there, okay?
Okay.
All right, drag him to the floor. Let me know when you have him on the floor.
It's going to be a 62-year-old male not breathing. CPR is in progress. Dispatch cleared.
I got him on the floor.
All right, sweetie, what you're going to do is you're going to get on your knees on the side of him. You're going to take the palm of your hand, and you're going to go to the center of his chest, even with his nipple. Put one hand on top of the other.
Okay.
Do this 30 times, okay? I'm going to count with you. Let me know when you're ready. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The minute we are able to start CPR, that's the first minute of your life that you're getting back.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is he talking?
No, he's just making noise as I'm putting on his chest.
Okay, keep going, baby. Don't stop. We're going to do this until the paramedics take over. Go. They're on the way, okay?
Okay.
Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sweetie, is the door open?
No, it's not.
Run and open the door and come right back and start chest compressions again. Hurry up.
Okay.
Okay, get your hands back in position. One hand over the other, center of his chest. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Copy, you're both en route at 0026. Be advised, CPR was started.
Don't stop until they get there. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Got here.
Okay, you got him?
Yes.
All right, sweetheart. Good job. Go get him.
Yes, right here. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome, baby.
Good job.
Good job. God, dog it. Okay. I need some damn water.
I always say that the person doing the CPR saved them, because I can tell them over the phone all day long how to do it, but it's up to that person on the other end of the phone to actually do it.
That was a lot of work, girl.
It was.
So I helped her save his life. She is the real hero because she put in the work. She put in the effort. She listened, she stayed calm, and she got it done.
Okay.
Really incredible call, Charlene. Adam mentioned this before. It does give you chills when you watch you in action. For a CPR call like that, what is the most important thing you want to get across to a caller?
The most important thing I want to get across to a caller is to remain calm so that I can help you save the person, your loved one that you're with. So getting across to them that they're doing a good job, give them motivation to keep going so we can save that person's life.
Thank you all for joining us. It was great speaking with you and getting to know you a little bit better. For anyone else watching, you can catch new episodes of 911 Crisis Center Saturdays on Oxygen at 9/8 Central, or you can catch episodes on the Oxygen app. And be sure to stay with oxygen.com for more interviews and more articles. Enjoy the rest of your CrimeCon at home holiday escape.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
Oxygen brings you a new series where lives are on the line.
You got a gun, you got a gun.
Real emergencies.
Help me! I need some help!
Real calls.
I was getting a lap dance. My penis came out on accident.
Oh, I can't with this job.
Real lives.
Put your hands in the center of his chest.
Nothing on TV is more real than Oxygen's 911 Crisis Center. New episodes Saturdays at 9.
Hey, everybody. I hope that you are enjoying CrimeCon home holiday escape, getting away from the relatives. And I'm pretty psyched to be here with you today. I am Tracy Brown, the fraud busting body language expert. And I just thought it would be pretty cool if we got into how you can tell if people are lying. Now, we are going to get into a case that I'm sure that you haven't seen. And also, I got a surprise for you at the end, just real quick here. You're going to be able to use these tools not only to solve all the crimes that you hear about at CrimeCon and get to dive into, but also with your family and friends around Christmas, because no one wants you lying to Santa Claus. So let's jump in here. Let me see if I can share my screen. And let's see, here we go. Good deal. This is my Liar Liar Pants on Fire CrimeCon special edition just for you. Now, I'm going to show you a quick video here, and then I'm going to jump into some debrief on it. So first, I want to see if you know who can tell who's lying in this police interview. Now, here's the deal. One of the people being interviewed is a minor. So he is redacted, kind of fuzzed out. Don't let it stop you. Just because you can't see someone's face doesn't mean that you can't tell if they're lying or not. So here we go.
Or whether or not it was an accident. No one is going to sit here and accuse you of doing this, or someone else. So she'd mentioned something about a pass out game. Is that something that you guys would play?
No. Maybe, I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Kids would, it was something I remember from when I was probably that age. You'd take a friend or whoever, usually a friend. It wasn't someone that was unwilling, and you'd choke them until they pass out, and then you'd
That sounds kind of dark.
Yeah, and people do it. People. Like I said, I can remember back, 20 some odd years back, that happening, and kids still do it. And it's nothing that's illegal. So she's under the impression that it was, maybe part of a pass out game, that it was an accident. Do you remember him ever playing that maybe with other kids in the neighborhood?
No, all I remember really doing at Charlie's, we did stuff like skateboard, because I had a skateboard and I think he had a skateboard, but I was never into that, like, I don't know, stupid games.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I got contacted by the mother of the little boy who died playing this choking game. I never heard of choking games. I guess it's something that boys do when they're, 10, 12 years old. They choke each other. When they come back, they get a little high out of it. So apparently, according to the mom, and her name, if you want to look this case up, her name's Teresa Heller. Her son's name was, or it is, however you want to think about it, Charlie. And this happened 5 years ago. She contacted me to help on this investigation. And something went wrong in this choking game. Charlie is no longer with us as a result. Now, the mom says that the person interviewed here, his name, well, I probably shouldn't tell you because he's a minor, but says that this kid did it. And apparently he confessed to a neighbor. Now, the family, you see the mom there, has left town. They left the neighborhood really quickly after this happened. And she claims that the police are barely doing anything on it and a state trooper is getting involved. That's why she sent me this video. So I had to watch, I don't know, 45 minutes of this, 30, 45 minutes. And it got pretty interesting, especially when it got to this part. This was the part I was most interested in because I am a body language expert, but remember, deception comes at the intersection of body language, tone, and words. So body language, like for me, it's sexy, right? It gets me in the door, but there's a lot more to deception, including like behavior profiling and things like that. So this interview happened recently. The incident happened 5 years ago. So this kid being interviewed is 15, 16 years old. And when I saw this part about, did you play the choking game? I had to watch it again because what does he say? He says, no, maybe, I don't know. Which when I heard that, I went, whoa, stop, rewind. Because when you hear a question at the end of a sentence that should be declarative, right? It should be a statement. Or even it could get into like command tonality. He goes, no. So it goes up at the end. And that says deception right there because the tone doesn't match what the word says, right? It says he has a question within himself. And then he said, maybe, well, I don't know. And then that's when you see the mom get involved. And she actually got involved quite frequently. Like they were almost like colluding on their answers. So this interview, I didn't really like for that reason. But then he asked, what did you and Charlie do together? Well, skateboards. And that's when you see this kid, you see his legs start to move. You see his knees start to move. And see, we have the least control over the lower part of our body. And he wants to go. Like he is too close. The interviewer is too close to what's really been going on. And in this kid's mind, he's going, danger, we got to go, but he knows he has to stay. So you see those legs start to move and he says, I don't know. And he starts to shift in his chair. And then he calls the whole game stupid. And so these are the things that I noticed. I was like, wait a minute, there are way too many signs here in this short little time period for there to be complete innocence going on. And so apparently, like I said, he left the scene and admitted this to the neighbor. And for whatever reason, the police have not gotten as involved as the mom wanted. So anyway, let's watch this again and you'll start to see all these things and hear these things that go, wait a minute, this police officer, this interviewer let him off really easy on this. Here we go.
Or whether or not it was an accident. No one is going to sit here and accuse you of doing this, or someone else. So she'd mentioned something about a pass out game. Is that something that you guys would play?
No, maybe, I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Kids would, it was something I remember from when I was probably that age. You take a friend or whoever, usually a friend. It wasn't someone that was unwilling, and you choke them until they pass out, and then you.
That sounds kind of dark.
Yeah, and people do it. People, like I said, I can remember back, 20 some odd years back, that happening, and kids still do it. And it's again, it's nothing that's illegal. So she's under the impression that it was, maybe part of a pass out game, that it was an accident. Do you remember him ever playing that maybe with other kids in the neighborhood?
No, all actually I remember really doing at Charlie's, we just stuff like skateboard, because I had a skateboard, and I think he had a skateboard, but I was never into that, like, I don't know, stupid games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you know what to look for, you can start to see all these things. Now, I had to watch this whole video probably 2 or 3 times to get all of this, because you get, as with any of us, we get sucked into the story, and you have to be very particular. Like, what you want to do is start to raise your sensory acuity. That's how much you're paying attention to what's going on around you, because it's easy to just listen or kind of half pay attention or just believe the words as is. So I found myself doing that because, he says in this video several times, it's like, oh, the mom is hurt. She's crazy. And he's, calling her, unsavory names. And so when I get contacted with things like this, it's hard for me to know who's right. Like, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, but this is what I saw on this video that made me go, hang on, maybe the mom is not that crazy. So this is, I don't know much about the statute of limitations and how much they're going to really dive into it, but my money is on that this kid had something to do with it. So anyway, that's your police interrogation video, so that you can start to see, wait a minute, it's not all about body language. There's a lot more that you can see and hear with tone. So, also another note on that. He said, I don't know, twice in a pretty short period of time. And I don't know, or words like phrases like, I have no idea. Those can be very indicative of deception as well. In one thing that's in the news right now, Elizabeth Holmes and her whole fraud trial at Theranos, if you're following that, she got into a deposition back late this summer, and she said, I don't know, 608 times in a 5-hour period. So and she was the CEO of the company. So when people say I don't know just too many times, that can be a red flag as well. Okay, so let's keep going, because I have some really cool news to share with you. And that is that during the pandemic, because most time what I do is keynote speeches. During the pandemic, I had some time off the road. So I developed a new TV series that we're working on in Hollywood right now. It is called Truth, Lies, and Cover-Ups. And this is all about the deception that goes on around financial fraud and the signs that are always there, hidden in plain sight, which, if caught in the moment, would have stopped big losses. So our pilot episode features, and all of these are true stories. This happened to a good friend of mine here in Denver, well, I'll tell you a little bit more about the story as we go, but the question here, we're going to see a little clip from it, is what do you see? Is there any deception going on? And how do you know? How do you know? Now, I trained the actors myself. I directed the show, and the signs of deception are technically perfect in here. So let's see what we can see, and how many, notice how many signs you see, and then we'll do a debrief. And the question here is, well, has he been, let's see, it's if he's been let go of his job or not, and are they going to be okay financially? That's the big question at hand here as he gets home from work one evening. Here we go.
We're going to be okay.
It's quick, isn't it? And so do you think they're going to be okay or not? And why? That is the question. Why? So take 2 seconds, write down the 3 signs. I'm going to tell you there's 3 signs. 3 signs that you may have seen about deception. Write them down. Okay, I gave you 6 seconds. Now, deception happens really quickly, so you got to learn to spot this really quickly. So he gets home from work, he's been let go, and he's trying to tell his wife that they're going to be okay. And what he does, watch, he backs up, he backs away from the issue, and he purses his lips together. which can mean he's holding back information, and he puts his hands in his pockets. Now, when people back away from things they don't like, and they'll purse their lips, it could be out of anger, or it could be out of holding back information. And then he hides his palms. When people hide their palms, they put them in their pocket or behind their back or under the table at the exact moment where they're saying something that could be true or false. You can bet that it's false. Okay, so let's watch this again. Let me see if I can rewind it here. And here we go.
We're gonna be okay.
So he's really conflicted here, right? Because 3 signs say no, 1 sign, his head nods yes, right? And so that's how we see the conflict here. And when you got 3 versus 1 on signs of deception, you can bet that you better believe the 3 and not the 1. So you see how easily it flows. It doesn't seem like much is going on, but well, I'll give you the dollar figure later that my friend found herself underwater. So let's see, let's do one more scene. And let's see. So this scene, there are, let's see, I think there's 3 signs of deception in this scene. So here we go.
I got some assets on your name I want to transfer.
Which ones?
What difference does it make?
All right. So he's a wheeler dealer financial guy, and there's trouble brewing. And so what are the signs of deception that you may see here? Take just a few seconds and write it down. All right, I gave you 6 seconds. That should be enough. Now, here's what happens. Whenever people answer a question, but they pause too long before they answer, and actually the FBI interviewers, it's about 5 seconds is what they'll tell you. There's deception in there. Also, his tone is super angry, right? And there's no reason to be angry in this situation. Okay, so when the tone is mismatched for the question that's asked, like that's another red flag. And then he said, what difference does it make? Right. And whenever people answer questions with a question, that's a problem. So we see that in this really clearly. So let's back this up here. Oh, here we go. And watch for the 3. Here we go. And as soon as he answers, as soon as she asks, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perfectly. He does it perfect. And here we go.
I got some assets on your name I want to transfer.
Which ones?
What difference does it make?
So you see all these signs of deception are hidden right in there. And I'll tell you the total, because here's the thing. If I can give you one tip on how to prevent loss at home, is to make sure on your accounts, if you're married that or with someone, or you have joint accounts, make sure you're checking them. The mortgage account, the investment accounts. One day, my friend decided to start checking on them because she was looking at divorce and found that they had $56. And they were $350,000 underwater. So this pilot episode is all about that. And cross your fingers, because we're working on it in getting it into Hollywood, and I think we got a chance. So I would love for you to be some of my fans and watch with me. And I know at CrimeCon they'll help you know when it's on the air. So let's see, we got to wrap it up, and let's see, here's what I want you to do. Take your phone. I know your phone is right next to you. Text the word lies, 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 to the number 22828. Text the word lies to 22828. And what that'll do is I will send you videos of famous people lying on TV. So I got Sarah Palin and Tanya Harding, like a bunch of them, and I'll teach you just a little bit about what they're doing. Now, it'll also put you on my mailing list, and every month I send out a note about who is lying now, and there's always someone. So text the word lies to 22828. I'll also give you links on how to find me on LinkedIn and Facebook. I would love to keep in touch with you there. And you can find a link to my Truth, Lies, and Cover-Ups podcast, which is where I'm getting all the stories for the TV show. And I think what I got to do and you can find that anywhere you get podcasts, and of course I'll give you updates on TV. So again, my name's Tracy Brown, and I hope you have a criminally good holiday season.
Hey everybody, I'm Rebecca Sebastian, host of the Dialogue podcast and Yellow Tape, a true crime trivia show, wishing you a very happy holiday.
Cold Justice is back.
Join Oxygen True Crime on the hunt for justice.
I believe you're going to solve it for us.
The cases are new, but Kelly hasn't changed a bit.
That is undeniable physical evidence. Everybody fired up? Yes.
Only Oxygen has new episodes of Cold Justice, Saturday at 8. Set your DVR now.
Hi, CrimeCon at home. It's YouTuber John Lorden from Brain Scratch and the missing persons show Searchlight. One case in particular this year taught me that a family's love and commitment is truly limitless. Maya Millete, also known as May, a Filipino-American mother of 3, went missing on January 7th, 2021. Last seen by her husband, Larry, at home, there were immediate red flags. Larry disappeared for several hours the following day, not taking his cell phone with him. Someone that was given access to the home noticed fresh patches on a wall and a door. A neighbor's security camera picked up what sounded like several gunshots. Information came out that May had been looking to get a divorce, and she had an appointment lined up within a few days of her disappearance. Her sister, Mary Chris, and Mary Chris's husband, Richard, stepped up in major ways. When they didn't feel like the police were giving the case enough attention, they held respectful protests in front of the station. Despite not having a solid search location, they upended their lives and started searching every weekend for May, living out of a trailer for extended periods of time, all while balancing interviews with news channels and working with social media to keep the case in the news. They kept all of this going this entire year. It's both heartbreaking and inspiring, and a true testament to the love that they have for May. Despite Maya Millete not being located, in October, Larry was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. As you and I are looking forward to a holiday season filled with family and warm memories, let's please remember the families that are dealing with having a missing loved one and not knowing if they're ever coming home. Please consider making a donation to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at missingkids.org. And let's give some families a chance at having their holiday wishes come true.
Great. Hello, everyone. It's Stephanie Gomolka with Oxygen.com once again. This December, Oxygen is diving into the cases related to the Murdoch family out of South Carolina with an all-new special. I have joining me now veteran journalist Troy Roberts, and we have the co-hosts of the podcast Impact of Influence, The Murdoch Family Murders, Matt Harris and Seton Tucker. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to be able to see you all and connect with you all. This is such a complicated case to untangle, to kind of wrap your head around all of the details. Tell me about those early days of your reporting.
Well, it was shocking because this was the murders of a prominent legal family and his wife, prominent legal members, wife and son, 22-year-old son. And he discovered the bodies. And when I heard about it in New York, it stunned me, as it did people in the Low Country in South Carolina. Police didn't have any suspects. They didn't rule anyone out. And I was thinking about motive, like who would want this lovely woman and her son dead, and why? And so that was the first question that raced through my mind. And when we hit the ground and arrived in South Carolina, state law enforcement were tight-lipped. They wouldn't say anything except that there was no threat to the community, no threat to the people there, which also struck me as odd. It was only a couple of days after the murders where they said, we don't know who did it, but everyone is safe here. And to me, that suggested they know who did it and why, you know?
Yeah, and I've heard them been described as a powerful family. For those who are unfamiliar with the case, can you give some context to that? Who was and who are the Murdoch family in their local community?
Well, everyone in the Low Country knows the name Murdoch. Alec Murdoch's father, his grandfather, and great-grandfather were elected prosecutors. They called them solicitors there. And this was a legal dynasty that was a force of nature in that part of the state. And they also had a tremendously successful law firm that earned millions and millions of dollars in successful civil lawsuits. These people were formidable, they were powerful, they were very wealthy, and consequently, folks in that area were reluctant to talk about them. It was so hard to get people to speak on the record about this family and about what they had gone through, whether they feared retribution or they feared for their personal safety. I'm not quite sure.
Matt and Segan, excited to bring you into this conversation. What brought you two together to want to make this podcast? What was it about the cases?
Segan could start with that one.
So I grew up in the area, and I originally started following the case back in 2019 when Mallory Beach was killed in a boating accident. And so I just kind of dove into the case and started following everything Murdoch. And then when Maggie and Paul were murdered, that's really when it came to national attention. But I was following it back from 2019 with boating accident, and then learning about Stephen Smith and hearing about this settlement with a housekeeper who had a slip and fall in their home.
For someone who's very unfamiliar with the case, even for true crime audiences, I think they tend to be attuned to what's happening in some of these larger cases. Can we walk through some of the different deaths or homicides in this case and kind of give a timeline of what has happened so far?
2015 is the beginning of at least the death part of this. Stephen Smith, a young man, gets run over and killed right near where the Murdoch Moselle property is, which is where you'll later hear about the homicides of Paul and Maggie. And it is ruled a hit and run, but many people don't believe it's a hit and run, including law enforcement officers who doubt that that is the case. But it goes down as a hit and run. Stephen's mother doesn't believe for a minute it's hit and run. There's no tire marks, and a lot of other evidence that should be there is not. So that is the first one, with the Stephen Smith hit and run, where there are lots of interviews done by law enforcement. The Murdoch name comes up in different interviews, but not enough to obviously indict anybody or charge anybody, or nothing is there, but the name comes up. So there is that attachment. Plus, Stephen Smith was known to the family, as you would expect in a small town. Almost everybody knows everybody. So that was the first one.
Are there theories, you know, if it's not a hit and run, are there theories to the actual cause and manner of death for Stephen?
Blunt force trauma. He was struck in the head. Initially, people thought it was a hit and run, but then they later determined he died by blunt force trauma,
which they were trying to say was the mirror of the vehicle that hit him, but there was that anybody could find any glass, any sign that the mirror fell off or whatever. Stephen was still in his shoes, his sneakers, which were, they say, loosely tied, which some experts have said you would be knocked out of your shoes if you get hit by a car going however fast.
I want to continue with this timeline of the cases, but I wonder if it would be helpful for viewers who are unfamiliar to give a who's who of the Murdoch family. Can you break that down, sort of like a family tree of who are the people we should know about?
Go ahead.
Matt, you're up.
No. Well, no, I will give you the law. I'll give you the way back machine, and then Seaton can do the close. So way back, 1905 or something, Randolph Murdoch becomes the first solicitor in this 5-county area, which is a prosecutor. He dies when his car gets hit by a railroad, steam engine or something, and he dies, and it passes on to his son, Randolph II, who goes by Buster. Gets confusing, but whatever. He goes to Buster II, who has a mixed match with bootlegging, just to add that little bit, and then it goes to Randolph III, who is the prosecutor after him, and so that is like 80 years, or not, actually close to 100 years of being the prosecutor in all that area. Plus, Alec was also a volunteer in the prosecutor office. So there's that, and now Seaton, as far as Randolph III's family tree.
Okay, so they had 4 kids. They had Alec, who is the husband of Paul and the father or the husband of Maggie and the father of Paul. And then he had 2 brothers. One is a lawyer who worked for PMPED, the law firm where Alec no longer works, but did work, and that his great-grandfather founded. And we also he has a sister and another brother who is not in law. And then he had 2 kids, Buster and also Paul. And Paul was the one who was found dead with Maggie.
And if you're getting a little, we should point out one thing here because of the weird pronunciations. So people will see this and they'll read it in the paper or whatever. It's Alex Murdaugh, but the way it's pronounced in the Low Country there is Alec or Alec Murdoch. Did I get it right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can say Alec if you're being formal, or Alec if you are from that area.
Don't get confused. When you hear Alec, it's also Alex.
Right. So let's keep going. So we talked about Stephen Smith. What is the next case that we should know about?
Well, if you're going chronologically, it would be
Gloria Satterfield.
Gloria Satterfield.
Yes, she's the housekeeper who had a slip and fall in the Murdoch home, and there was a settlement, but not a settlement. Like it's now in a lot of. There were reports that there was a settlement, and there was a $500,000 settlement and a $4.7 million settlement. But we've now come to find out that the heirs of the Satterfield family said they never received any of the funds for the settlement. So that's actually why Alec is in jail right now, because of these missing funds that were allegedly not given to the heirs when it settled. Alec allegedly opened up a separate bank account, put the money in the bank account, and never gave any of the money except for $84 to the heirs of Gloria Satterfield.
So Gloria Satterfield falls down the stairs and dies a couple of days later. At the time, that's the story. She falls down the stairs, and the heirs receive $500,000 or something close to that. That's the story at the time, and that stays that story until a few months ago. And that's when the story starts to change, where we find out there was a insurance payout that never got to them. The case is reopened of Gloria Satterfield's death because it was in the death certificate said natural causes. So that's reopened. But at the time, this sat from 2016 on as just, hey, these guys got $500,000. She fell down the stairs. That's that. Now it comes back into play in a couple of ways. One is after the Mallory Beach accident, the boating accident, one of the Cook boys is giving a deposition, and he says in the deposition under oath that he heard that Paul had pushed a woman down the stairs and she died. He doesn't mention who, he doesn't mention whatever, but obviously the leap to everybody is Gloria Satterfield. So that name starts pouncing up again. Enter Eric Bland, Bulldog attorney, who's not from around here, comes in and starts digging in and somehow finds out these kids didn't get anything. And there was almost $5 million or whatever laying around out there. So that begins the ball rolling in another weird way. But it's interesting, it's important to point out that at the time, it was just housekeeper, falls down the steps, dies. That's it. But turns out a lot more to that story. And she was a lot more than a housekeeper, too. It's worth pointing out. She was with them with some like 20 years. She was a nanny. She helped basically raise the kids. In her obituary, it talks about the Murdoch being family. She was a large part of their life, almost the entire life of Paul. So that is important to note, and how that story just stood like that until after the homicides of Paul and Maggie, and a few months later, when Eric Bland, the attorney, gets involved. So that's when everything really for the Murdochs, that is the string, the major string that got pulled where like things started crumbling.
Let's continue with the last couple cases here. So tell me about the boating incident and then what happened to Maggie and Paul, what we know.
Seaton, you go ahead and handle the boating.
Okay.
You were really on that.
In February of 2019, there was a boating accident where Paul was allegedly the driver of the boat, where they had been out at an oyster roast and then they had gone downtown Beaufort, and these kids were all 19, 20 years old. They weren't of age, but they had had some alcohol. And Paul was acting kind of erratic. He had a lot to drink, and when he drank, sometimes this kind of alter ego that they called Timmy would come out. And according to depositions, he was really angry. He got in a fight with his girlfriend where he spat and hit her. He was left the helm of the boat several times, where one of the other boaters, Connor Cook, would kind of take over. So after the accident occurred, there was a lot of confusion about who the driver was. Paul denied being the driver. Connor denied being the driver. And Mallory was thrown from the boat and she was missing. So it took some time for the police to arrive, because there was also confusion about where they were, because they were on these narrow waterways and police were having a difficult time trying to find exactly where they are. When they did go to the hospital, Alec shows up at the hospital along with his father, and there's a lot of question about whether they tried to influence the investigation. They told the kids not to talk.
Very quickly, could you share what happened to Maggie and Paul, or what we know?
It was June of 2021, and Maggie and Paul were walking on their property, the Moselle property, and they were gunned down. I understand that Paul was shot and killed, and Maggie was shot multiple times.
Yeah, we've been talking for a while here, and it still feels like there's so much more to unpack of, questions of motive. We talked about privilege. Troy, just last question here very quickly. What can you tell us about your upcoming Oxygen special? Who do you speak with?
Well, my goodness, this has been a tremendous undertaking. We've been digging at this for close to 5 months now. And we've spoken to members of the community. I don't want to give it completely away, but people that are close to the principals in this case. What's been so hard about it is I've gotten whiplash. Truly, every other week I am reading something and I say, wait, what? what I mean, I've been doing this for such a long time, and I have never worked on a story that is so multi-layered with so many different players in it, and surprises, constant reveals. It's fascinating. It's frustrating as a reporter because you want more cooperation from law enforcement. It's so tight-lipped. I've never experienced anything like it before.
Yeah, so interesting. I feel so lucky to have all of you, in one Zoom room, sharing all of your knowledge with us. Thank you all for being here and taking part in this. If you back at home want to learn more and hear more from Troy, Seton, and Matt, don't miss Oxygen's all-new special focused on the cases Sunday, December 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and Pacific.
Hello, CrimeCon at Home Holiday Escape. I hope you have been enjoying the sessions. My name is Spencer Corson, threat management expert and author of the best-selling book, The Safety Trap. With the holidays in full swing, I want to provide you with some valuable tips on how to keep you and your loved ones safe this holiday season. This time of year, we are consumed with shopping and parties and homes full of family and friends. But this is also the time of year when thieves are at their peak. Why? Because when our holiday spirits are running high, we have a tendency to lower our guard. Good boy. When it comes to home security, there's no better combination than a Remington and a Ronin. But while that choice may not be the best option for everyone, keeping our families and our homes secure is a priority. So here's a few tips and tricks to keep your home and your family safe this holiday season. One of the most simple yet highly effective safeguards that you can employ at your home is making sure the front door is locked. You'd be surprised how many bad guys are able to break into a home because someone left their front door open. Another simple yet highly effective safeguard for your home is making sure you have adequate outdoor lights. Especially during daylight saving when it's darker longer, you want to take away every advantage of anonymity a bad guy may have. A simple fix for this is what's known as from dusk till dawn light bulbs, which are lights which automatically turn themselves on when it gets dark and then off again once it gets light. Sometimes keeping your home safe is as simple as turning a light on. Another option is security cameras. The marketplace today has every option for every budget imaginable, from Ring cameras to Nest to Google Home to security cameras that interface with the Internet of Things. But the most important thing about installing a security camera is that you get an ID quality image. You want to be able to see the face and identify who the individual is, rather than having that camera placed so high that all you're seeing is the top of their head. Regardless of circumstance or scenario, the number one most influential factor of target selection is likelihood of success. And the best way to combat the bad guy thinking they will be likely to target you is to promote a protective posture. This can be done a number of ways, from having cameras and lights to having a beware of dog sign. But a very important aspect of that is not to draw unwanted attention onto yourself, especially during the holiday season, when big purchase items are made or gifted or brought to you by Santa. You want to make sure that those boxes aren't displayed outside, letting everyone in the neighborhood know what you have inside. So break those boxes down, shred those important documents, and participate in your own protection whenever possible. And finally, don't think that just because you're an individual homeowner that your home security is your responsibility alone. Your neighbors are more than happy to help bring in a package off your front steps if you're not going to be home in time to pick it up. There are applications like the Nextdoor app or Ring Community or Facebook groups where a community can come together. Because if you engage with your community is much more likely to engage with you. If Bonnie and Clyde were alive today, they wouldn't be robbing banks, they'd be stealing your personal information. Why? Because this holiday season alone, more than $10 billion in sales are expected in online stores. So what can you do to help keep yourself protected? Here are a few tips and tricks to use not just this holiday season, but every day of the year. Do not use the same username and password for all of your accounts. While it may be very difficult to hack your bank account, it's very easy to hack your fitness tracker. And if you're using the same user and pass name for one as you are for all the others, you're basically giving away the keys to the kingdom. In addition to using a strong username and password, you'll also want to make sure that you turn on dual authentication factors. Doing so will not only prevent someone from logging into your account from an unknown device, but it will also alert you that someone has tried to do so. Think of dual authentication factors as your bank or your credit card alerting you about suspicious activity. You want to make sure you are taking full advantage of all the safeguards available, and this is a key to doing so. Make sure that the website you are visiting is a secure site. You will know it's a secure site because it will say HTTPS, the S meaning secure, in the web browser. There will also be a little padlock icon in the address bar. Doing so will help to ensure the certainty of your safety and protect your online transaction. When it comes to deciding which method of payment to use, consider using credit cards rather than debit cards for the simple fact that credit cards offer a higher level of protection against fraud. But don't forget that you also have third-party services like PayPal and Venmo to choose from. While this is the time of year to be both caring and giving, it's also the time of year to be a little bit skeptical about things that seem too good to be true. This is the time of year when text messages, emails, and phone calls run rampant with those trying to exploit your personal information. Your bank is not going to call you asking for your PIN number. Your credit card company is not going to call to confirm your password. And Home Depot and Best Buy are not going to send you a text saying you want a $500 gift card. How can you protect yourself? Have a healthy sense of skepticism and a moderate dose of vigilance, and when in doubt, throw it out. I hope you found those tips to be helpful, and while it's important to remember that cybercrime is at an all-time high during the holidays, employing these best practices is something we should employ every single day of the year. One of the first things all of us should do when it comes to our social media feed is to audit ourselves with honesty. Just because something was important to post last week doesn't mean it's going to be necessary to keep relevant 6 months from now. Most people would be shocked to learn how much sensitive information we post over a 6-month timeline. Everything from our birthday to our mother's maiden name, where we went to school, the first car we drove, which are very likely the answers to all of the challenge password questions. So it's important to keep in mind that while what you post may not be the reason you are targeted, everything you post may help someone who wants to target you to be more effective. Keep in mind that it's always better to post after you have done something rather than what you're about to do or what you're doing. While you may be excited for your vacation, that countdown clock that you have about going on the cruise is not only going to let everyone know that you're going to be gone, but it's giving the bad guys time and location to target you. Another thing to keep in mind is to ensure that you're not oversharing not just where you live, but whether or not you live alone. The last thing you want is for someone to know that if you're out and about, your home is ripe for exploit. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, you want to be sure you are not oversharing sensitive, personal, identifying information, like your house number, your license plate, or the name on your mailbox. The last thing you want to do is overshare identifying information for a bad guy to find you. We've all seen the video on social media or on the evening news. A woman is walking through a parking lot in a shopping center, much like this one. A man who looks suspicious comes up behind her. What does he want? Does he want the contents of her cart? Is he looking to steal her purse? Or perhaps more frighteningly, is he after her? Today, I'm going to provide you with a few safety tips to help keep you protected while shopping this holiday season. One of the reasons bad guys like to target parking lots such as this one is because they are natural transition zones. And the transition zones are those areas where we have a natural tendency to either project ourselves to what we're going to go do or reflect back about what we just did. And that inherent vulnerability can be exploited because our awareness is much lower than it otherwise would be. And so all we really need to do is just be mindful that this is a vulnerability and try to make ourselves more present in that activity. Another important thing to keep in mind is where we are going to park. Parking lots are much better than parking garages because they offer a better field of view. But when you are going to park, maybe you want to park as close to the front door as you can so that those who are coming in and out can see you. If you're parking at night, you want to park under the lights so that the area around your car is better illuminated. Or if you see security cameras up and around, try to park within field of view of those. And of course, this is the one time of year where if a shopping center is offering a valet option, you may want to take that into consideration because the cost is not only worth the convenience, but the added protection as well. Another tip to keep in mind is to not put valuable items in the back seat of your car. They should go into the trunk. If your car doesn't have a trunk, maybe having a blanket or something else to cover those belongings will help keep your vehicle from being targeted. Another consideration when shopping is that if you are going to be purchasing a high value item, that you take that item off site as soon as you get it to your car. One of the worst things you can do is buy a high value item like a television or a computer and then put it into your car and then go back inside because bad guys are often working in teams and there may be a spotter who is alerting someone outside that you are coming outside with this item, and then once they see you go back inside, they know they have a window of opportunity for your vehicle to be targeted. And one final option is don't forget to ask for help. Security staff and managers of department stores are more than happy to help you ensure your certainty of safety. So even if you've already left the store, you're walking out and you just don't feel quite right, you are absolutely within your right to go back inside, ask for help, and ensure your certainty of safety. For many of us, our vehicles are our lifeline. They help us get where we need to go. And so whether you're traveling cross town or cross country, here are a few safety tips to help you get where you need to go this holiday season. Not all of us may live in a cold weather environment and need to worry about inclement conditions like snow or freezing rain or black ice. But all of us should make sure that our cars are ready to perform in a way that we think will be necessary. So whether that's making sure that our tires are properly inflated or that our engines are running smoothly, making sure that our equipment will work as we expect it to perform is a critical component of safety. Another consideration is to make sure that we are ready and able to handle any emergency which may arise, whether that be inclement weather or traffic or a breakdown on the side of the road. Today's marketplace offers a wide variety of emergency readiness packs that are suited to every budget. Make sure you have the one that is best suited to your needs, and you can check out the link below for what I carry in mine. I cannot emphasize this next tip enough. Please make sure your spare tire is in good working order before you get on the road. The absolute worst time to inspect what you expect is when you need it to actually work. So please, check your spare tire before you go out on your road trip. Another important tip is to not be overconfident that you can handle any weather condition that may come your way. Listen to local news reports, check the Weather Channel, understand what is coming into your area so that you know if you have the amount of time and distance needed to get where you need to go in the safest way possible. Finally, knowing where you are may be more important than knowing where you're going. If you're in an emergency situation, and moments matter most, you want first responders to know exactly where you are, not the general area of where you may be. There's an application called What 3 Words, which has broken the world down into 10-foot squares and provided a unique 3-word combination for each of those 10-foot sections. This way, when you are in the middle of nowhere, you don't have to worry about where you are between 2 mile markers. You can tell first responders exactly where you are. This time of year is also filled with holiday cheer, parties, cocktails, and more. But while we're out having friends with colleagues, coworkers, friends, and family, it is also important to not let our guard down when it comes to staying safe. And while I know you know these, please bear with me while I just drive a few of them home. Safety is always found in numbers, so try not to go anywhere alone. If you're out at a party or a bar, be sure to not leave your drink unattended. Always use Uber or Lyft instead of driving home drunk. And while you are out enjoying yourselves and having a great time, Always remember to keep yourself in check. Remember your own responsibility for your personal safety. Have a great time, but be safe doing it. And of course, my final safety tip is to get yourself a copy of The Safety Trap. Learn how to live your very best life the safest way possible. Not only does it make for a great gift, but it quite possibly could be a life-saving gift. It is available at thesafetytrap.com or wherever your favorite books are sold. On behalf of myself, my boy Ronan, and everyone at CrimeCon, we hope that all of you have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you for joining us. Be good to one another. Cheers.
Are you looking for the latest in true crime programming and publications to binge this holiday season? Well, don't worry. We here at Crime HQ have got you covered with our top 10 shows, documentaries, books, and podcasts to get you through. Now, in no particular order, our first selection. We have good news for those of you who still have not gotten enough Joe Exotic. Tiger King 2 dropped on Netflix on November 17th. Now, while Exotic remains behind bars, the others are living large, and Exotic has had enough. This new installment promises stunning revelations, murder, mayhem, and of course, a little madness. Have you been listening to the current season of Undisclosed, the podcast? If you haven't, take the time over the holidays to go back and catch up. Episode 6 caused Twitter to melt down with collective blown minds, so you want to be sure to check it out. You know exactly what's going on in your home and what's residing in your backyard, right? Well, as the Oxygen series Buried in the Backyard, which returned to Oxygen for its 4th season on November 18th, revealed, that's not always the case. Catch up on all episodes of Buried in the Backyard on the Oxygen app. November 23rd on HBO, watch the new 4-part documentary, Black and Missing. The series takes a deep dive into Black missing persons cases and the disparity in how they are covered in the media compared to those involving white victims. The Copycat Zodiac. Herberto Seda is the subject of a recent episode of Phil Chalmers' podcast, Where the Bodies Are Buried. Chalmers says Seda is a rare, exact copycat serial killer, which is totally fascinating. Chalmers, a homicide trainer and author, was a popular guest on Crime HQ. Watch the archive video on Crime HQ anytime. On November 30th, a captivating murder mystery suspense debuts from Hannah Morrissey. Hello, Transcriber is a novel that features a female police transcriber who goes beyond the limits to solve a harrowing case. And keep your eyes out on December 5th for a new season of The Real Murders of Orange County on Oxygen. The series returns with more shocking tales of homicide cases that involve famed musicians, billionaire moguls, and entitled narcissists who want more than their fair share. And Wolbert Burge's new book out December 7th sounds perfect for our true crime community. Entitled A Killer by Design, Murders, Mind Hunters, and My Quest to Decipher the Criminal Mind is a look into the creation of the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit and the evolution of criminal profiling, written by the pioneering forensic nurse who transformed the way FBI studies, profiles, and catches serial killers. Then, best-selling author James Patterson joins forces with Benjamin Patterson for The Defense Lawyer, out December 20th. The subject is a legendary criminal lawyer, Barry Slotnick, known for representing John Gotti and defending Bertie Goetz. On Netflix, December 29th, Crime Scene, The Times Square Killer. This season focuses on New York's Times Square in the late 1970s and early 80s, and how Richard Cottingham, known as the Torso Killer, was able to commit and get away with a series of heinous crimes. Being a member of Crime HQ has killer benefits. As the only online true crime fan community, members can join our book club, learn from experts at the top of their field on crime conversations, dive into featured cases, and catch sessions you may have missed from past CrimeCon events. And don't forget, the official Crime HQ binge list is a carefully curated and constantly updated list of upcoming true crime and mystery documentaries, series, podcasts, and books. To become a member, join at crimehq.com. Happy holidays from all of us here at Crime HQ.
Tough cases require tougher investigators.
Women are pretty badass detectives.
Experience the wildest true crime ride-along with Oxygen.
I'm here to prevent more Native American women from dying.
Strong women.
We care about these victims.
With real convictions.
How many other victims are out there?
This trip isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the obsessed. Oxygen. We live and breathe true crime.
Hi, CrimeCon. It's Amanda Knox and Christopher Robinson here, the
Hello.
hosts and producers of the podcast Labyrinths.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We thought we'd share with you some prison Thanksgiving traditions today.
Well, first of all, what was your typical meal like in prison?
Right. So, breakfast was a liquid. It was an instant coffee. It was a warm milk or a tea. You got one of the above. And then lunch and dinner was the same thing. It was a starch, a meat, and a vegetable. And when I say...
Like filet mignon, like ossobuco?
Yeah. You'd think it's Italy, right? Italy, of all places to eat horrible food for 5 years. It was the plainest pasta, oil, whatever. It was steamed vegetables or raw random vegetables like raw fennel.
Yum.
And then there was some cartilagey meat. That was my diet for 3-4 years. Were it not for the very, very gracious help of my family who were allowed to bring food to me occasionally.
So, had you ever missed a Thanksgiving until prison?
No.
Gosh, that must have been hard.
Yeah, it was. And I think, there are lots of, I think the world can actually sort of appreciate this because the pandemic has been raging. And perhaps for yet another year, there are going to be people who are not going to be able to spend their time with their families. And I know exactly what that feels like.
What did your family do back home when you were gone?
Well, indeed, there are strategies for acknowledging the presence of those who are not with you. In my family's case, they always lit a candle to represent me in the room or at the table so that there was the sense of my presence even in my absence.
That's sad and sweet.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Was that your Oma who did that?
Yeah, my Oma's the sentimental type.
Yeah. What about you on the inside? How did you deal with Thanksgiving?
That's a hard one because I was more on the side of if I can pretend it's a regular day, I'd rather do that because it's so difficult to not be there. And, it's not like I would have been having Thanksgiving dinner anyway, right? However, my family did go to extreme lengths to make me feel like I was a part of the family tradition. My stepdad in particular would make Thanksgiving dinner for me. And he would bring it into the prison for me. Turkey,
His
mashed
love
potato.
language is food. Yeah.
Turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and gravy. And you may be wondering, my dear.
I might be.
What
am I wondering?
What are you wondering?
Right. Are you allowed to bring all that into prison?
That is the trick. No, you are not allowed to bring liquids into prison.
Wait, why not?
Because you can smuggle drugs in liquids.
You didn't want drugs?
No, I'm not the addict you are.
Yeah.
No, so things like gravy and cranberry sauce were difficult to come into the prison
And what
environment.
is some turkey and stuffing without gravy and cranberry sauce?
Indeed. In fact, it is not Thanksgiving without them. So what was my stepdad to do except freeze them? So by the time they arrived in the prison and he submitted them for review, they were frozen solid. And by the time they reached me, they had thawed back into gooey, delicious liquid. So talk about being creative on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, I bet you were grateful that they went through all that trouble just to give you some cold gravy.
Yeah, I was. And in fact, I think that's a note we should hit upon is I think the prison environment made me, in a backwards sort of way, grateful every day because, one, I was alive. I could have been killed alongside Meredith. And grateful that I had a lot of things that the other women around me did not have, like a family who cared about me.
Yeah. When you got out of prison, what were you surprised to be grateful for?
The smell of home, the feeling of grass under my feet, the softness of the earth after walking years on concrete. Lots of little things.
Yeah. I heard you once talk about just having control of your ability to enter doors, to choose when to go in and out of a door.
Yeah, and whether or not to close it and open it. Yeah, for 4 years, I hadn't even opened a door, much less locked or unlocked one on my own. And so doing that,
What a thing to be grateful for.
It
to
is.
be able to open a door when you want to open a door. So, maybe this Thanksgiving, try to think about those overlooked things, the kinds of things that someone like Amanda had stripped from her when you're thinking about what to be grateful for.
And if you're missing your family members, there are always, always, always strategies to feel close. One that I highly recommend is writing a letter, but as if you are in conversation with the person, as if they're sitting right across from you in the room. And if you want, even write your own dialogue and their dialogue into the letter.
Did you do that?
I don't think I did that exactly, but I definitely had conversations with people in my head. And I almost wrote as if I were responding to an idea that was said to me. In any case, it's actually a way to feel even more present with someone than you would in a highly, energetic, everyone get the food on the table kind of environment. And send it along because everyone loves to receive a handwritten letter.
Also, there's plenty of research showing the mental health benefits of expressing and practicing gratitude. So if you don't find a time in your day every day to think of something you're grateful for, maybe this is the time to start. Start on Thanksgiving and
Thanksgiving all year round.
Carry it forward,
I like
Find
it.
something to be grateful for. You're not in prison. You're
not dead.
You're not the subject of the true crime stories that entertain you. That's a big one,
You're being such a lecturer. I'm sorry for
you get to be the audience and not the subject. That's huge,
Okay, fair enough. Mindful.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you a very, very happy holidays, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hello, CrimeCon 2021. I'm Tom Llamas from NBC News. I'm the host of Top Story with Tom Llamas, and I'm a senior national correspondent. And it is my honor today to speak to one of the true legends, the Jedi Master, as I call him, of the true crime genre, Keith Morrison.
Jedi Master?
Yeah. Jedi Master.
Wow.
Tell me you'll take it.
Do I have a choice? That sounds wonderful.
That's the ultimate compliment. All right, you definitely have the force.
Thank you.
Keith, it is good to be Dateline right now. The show is celebrating its 30th season. There's a very popular Dateline 24/7 channel on Peacock, and Dateline podcasts are drawing hundreds of millions of listeners. That's impressive. Are you surprised the program that these is decades old? It's like, I guess, 30 years old, and it's still doing so well?
I was surprised when we lasted 3 weeks. So 30 years, yes, you bet. But it's enormously gratifying. I mean, I'm thrilled that people want to watch our program, and apparently want to still watch our program. So I'm in.
Does expanding to new platforms like streaming and podcasts mean more work for you?
It does in a good way, especially the podcasts. The podcasts are an opportunity to take the material we have and let it grow and expand and fill, instead of a 2-hour broadcast, fill 6 hours of broadcast. Because as you know, Tom, when you're doing a story, you have to leave a lot on the cutting room floor, is the old expression. But when you can live in the story as deeply as we can in a podcast, it's hugely gratifying.
So let's talk about your new original podcast series, The Thing About Helen and Olga. What is it about?
Well, it's about two, I say elderly women, although frankly, a little younger than me when they were committing their crimes. But these are two women who got together. They met at a gym in Los Angeles back in the early 80s, and they discovered they had minds that kind of concurred in a morally ambiguous way. And they eventually developed a program where they apparently became angels for homeless men. They put them up, they fed them, they housed them for quite a long period of time. So they seemed to be doing the Lord's work until those men suddenly and inexplicably were killed. And then, of course, it turned out that there were large insurance policies on each of them.
I'm hooked. You reported on this story, years ago for a 1-hour Dateline program. How would you compare putting together the TV program to making the podcast? And I know that's, as a broadcaster and a reporter, that's difficult because you have to go back to all your notes and sort of relive those experiences.
Yes, but I'm not doing this by myself. Trust me. And so we did go back to the original material, and then did some additional reporting, did some additional interviews, drew on both the material from the original harvest of material that we did, and then added to that with what we had to make for 6 hours of, I think, pretty fascinating material.
Let's talk about the process of making a podcast, because, it's sort of stripped down to the bare bones as far as, broadcasting goes and what we do. It is very simple, it is very intimate, but there is a specific art form to it now because so many people are listening to podcasts. And though some people may say, oh, it's just radio, it's really not. It's a little different.
It is a little different. Well, it's highly produced, for one thing. So it does take a professional production staff to make it work. And you want to have the atmospherics of the sound just right. But in a way, it's like you're listening to the old radio broadcasts of the 1930s or 40s. Those were highly produced too. It's just that in recent radio, we've gotten used to the idea that it's kind of fast and easy with a lot of music in it. If you're going to produce a program, it needs to be, you need to feel as if you're in the room with those people, and the sound needs to flow evenly from one segment to another segment. It has to all make sense as it plays together. But behind all of that, you're giving an opportunity to the listener to live in the theater of his or her mind. They imagine the individuals, they imagine the situation they're in, and that makes it all the more interesting, I think, for the listener. It also means you are not a slave to the pictures the way you and I are, Tom, when we're telling a story on television.
Right, trying to write to those pictures. You and I both have done so many stories where you said, this could be another hour, this could be another half hour, but turning an hour show into a 3-hour podcast, that has to be challenging.
But it's challenging, but it's also liberating, because all those restraints are taken off. You don't have to worry about hitting a certain number of minutes. You can just let it grow, let it go. There's an interview that you want to let play long, let it play, because it's fascinating just to listen to two people talking, et cetera, et cetera.
As somebody who's in this business and who's watched you for so many years, and I've actually seen you in the field working on breaking news years ago on a story. I'll never forget. You were writing your script, and I swear I saw this with a pencil. And I highlight this story because people know you from Dateline, but you're one of these journalists, one of these TV journalists who has sort of all the tools, all the weapons, if you will. One of your most recognizable weapons, of course, is your voice. I mean, it is just so iconic in our business. Did you, at this point in your career, is it something you sort of protect? Do you have to warm up? Do you make sure that you never sort of harm your instrument, if you will?
It's an instrument? No, but I try to remember to wake up every morning and have a cup of tea and get going.
Make sure the heart's still ticking.
That's about it, yeah.
But I mean, it's just, is it one of these things where you were just born with it, so you go with it, you don't really have to sort of hone it or keep it, I guess, at its highest level?
No, not really. I mean, you know, there are good days and bad days. And my wife laughs at me because I'll tell her, you know, I don't think I'm gonna record that today. It's just not right in there. And she'll, what an idiot. She'll have that look on her face. But the next day, it'll be just fine. Yeah.
In the COVID area, where do you record your narration? What have you been doing?
I used to go and record in a closet. Just stick my head among the clothes because, you know, the sound was baffled. But now they've got these wonderful microphones where I just sit in the middle of turn the bedroom into an office and sit at the desk and read the words. It works just as well.
And as far as process goes, I mean, are you visualizing what you're reading? I mean, what are some of your tips for narration?
Well, you just have to live in it, you know? You think about it carefully, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 passes to get it feeling right.
Your most popular podcast so far, I think, was called The Thing About Pam, and it had something like 18 million listeners and counting. Why do you think that one was so popular?
Well, you know, there's something about women who have developed a talent for really outrageous criminal behavior and are yet somehow able to disguise it and fool other people into thinking that they're good people. People are interested in those kinds of individuals. You know, they are so atypical of what you'd expect from, in this case, a couple of grandmothers.
Tell me if this story sounds familiar. You have this legendary reporter, becomes this incredible broadcaster, does everything he wants in the business, everyone knows his name, and then suddenly they say, we want you to start telling stories just into a microphone. It's the hottest thing. It's called a podcast. And this legendary broadcaster was a little bit resistant to the change. Is that true?
Yes, actually, it is true. I don't know what broadcaster you're talking about, but I was a little resistant to the change.
Have you found, or do you listen to podcasts? Are there any podcasts you really like, or have you found it's a medium that you enjoy?
I sample them and find them interesting for a variety of reasons. Yeah, all kinds of them.
Yeah, me too. I think people like them because of the intimacy, right? It just feels like you can focus, you can listen, and I mean, a lot of times you learn something.
Sure.
You and your fellow correspondents, Andrea Canning, Dennis Murphy, and Josh Mankiewicz, have been called the rock stars of true crime. How often are you recognized? How comfortable are you with the attention? And I know, I mean, again, you've been on the airwaves for a long time, and you've been so successful from, I know, local news to national news. So being known as sort of this true crime personality, how has that felt and how has that been?
It is presented its moments. It's been odd, surprising, and very gratifying. People are nice to me, and in ways that probably I don't deserve. But I get a lot of people coming up to say hello, and I'm grateful for it. You know, it's a different quality to the saying hello than there used to be when I was doing more standard kind of news material. You know, that everybody's a little more combative about what's news in the world, especially as having to do with politics. But where it comes to true crime, I think there's a recognition that we're doing our homework, and there doesn't have to be a side you take in it. So people are a lot more friendly and open.
How do you approach the material, and do you get to select the crimes that you sort of want to put together in an hour-long Dateline?
It's not a one-person operation. You know, we have one of the best editorial staffs I've ever seen assembled anywhere. These are people who are at the top of their game in every aspect of what we do, and a group of them, of the senior people, get together every morning and they talk about potential stories. And so, Josh and I and the others will pitch stories, and we'll get stories we want to do, and we can shepherd them through the process. But there's still a process that we have to attend to. And it goes both ways. If I do the stories they want me to do, then they let me to do the stories I want to do, that kind of thing.
One of the tough parts of our business is that a lot of times you meet people on the worst day of their life. And in Dateline, a lot of times you have to speak to these family members who have gone through this traumatic experience. What's that process like for you? Because I know it's tough. I know it's tough when you spend long hours with these families, as you do, because it takes a long time to put together these Dateline broadcasts. So how is that for you, and how do you sort of get over sort of hearing about these horrible things that have happened to people?
Well, it's a gift that they give us to open themselves at a point of such vulnerability in their lives and talk about it for intimately, for hours, sometimes telling you things they'd never tell even a best friend or another family member. But they're prepared to sit and tell us about it because they want the world to know about this person they have lost, or about this thing that they went through and why it matters. And as I say, it's a gift to us to be able to participate with them in that process.
A lot of times, as a fan of Dateline, I'm watching to see if the guy you're interviewing is in prison or he's not in prison. I'm trying to see, is he wearing the uniform or is he not? Yeah. How tough is it to interview some of these convicted killers? And do you have bodyguards? Is there security? How do they make sure that this guy doesn't jump over and start strangling Keith Morrison?
I get asked that a lot. And the fact of the matter is, people who have been convicted of murder, doesn't matter how long ago, generally want to prove to you that they didn't do it. Even if they did do it, and full well they did do it, they're still being nice as pie, decent, honorable people for the television camera, because that's how they want the world to look at them. So the idea that one of them would suddenly rise up and go after you is highly, highly unlikely. It's a lot more reasonable to have some prosecutor go at you because he's mad about a question you asked, or somebody else in the story is more likely to be aggressive towards you than a convicted killer. They're the ones with something to prove.
We can wrap here, but what do you think it is about Americans and really people all over the world that are sort of drawn to true crime?
I don't know really what the answer is, except I suspect it's because there's so much of it, because people seem to be so drawn to it, and it hasn't gone away, and it hasn't been a flash in the pan. True crime has been around for a long, long time. So has, fictional crime. That there's going to be something evolutionary. We must worry a lot about what's out there, what goes bump in the night. What we have to think about the people we even live with, because most of the really terrible crimes are committed by people or sometimes intimately. So what is it about that crime that informs my life is something I think people need to know. And watching true crime is a way of, living in somebody else's experience.
It has been with us for as long as the written word has existed, and it still seems to be so popular, still seems to be growing with podcasts and Dateline specials and a streaming network. Keith, as a fan of yours, as a fan of your craft, thank you for talking to me. I really do appreciate it. And on behalf of all the fans of CrimeCon, thank you as well. We will be watching everything that Dateline puts out. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Tom. It's been very nice.
How y'all doing tonight? This is Aaron.
I'm Justin. We're from the Generation Y podcast.
We wanted to give you a little update. So Oscar Pistorius is back in the news. If you recall, back in 2013, he was accused of murdering his girlfriend, Reba Steenkamp. Now, according to Oscar, it was an accident. He thought she was an intruder and he shot her accidentally.
Go back and listen to our episode.
In 2014, he was convicted. Now, what happened in the courts was he got a sentence of 6 years, but that was appealed, and then he was handed a sentence of 15 years plus time served. So essentially 13 years, 5 months. Now, the Steenkamp family, They're a little upset because they were told you don't have to worry about Oscar again until 2023 when he's up for parole. But it turns out that the courts looked at everything and they said, you know, he had time served. He actually can apply for parole in 2021.
Yeah, and who isn't going to apply for parole when they're behind bars? So he's applying, and in South Africa, he gets 500 days credit. And also, he wrote a letter to the family, which they called distressing because they weren't prepared for him to be released this soon. But they also have restorative justice in Africa, and that allows the family to have a sit down and a face-to-face with the accused, the convicted, their, you know, Oscar Pistorius. They can sit down with them. So they're gonna do that. And I'm wondering if that will be recorded, if anyone will be able to see that, or if it's going to be a private meeting. But that's gonna happen, and it could happen in the next month or two.
And I wonder if restorative justice will mean something to this family, or if, like the letter, it will be distressing.
Hi, CrimeCon. I'm Brian Enton with News Nation. Thanks for having me as part of the holiday escape. We've been working on so many strange, mysterious stories lately, one of which is the Summer Wells case out of Tennessee. That is the missing 5-year-old girl, been missing for months and months. The reward for any information about her disappearance has now gone up to $70,000. We were in Tennessee last week trying to find out something new about where this little girl could be. Take a look at some of what we found. Flying into Tennessee, we weren't sure what to expect. Summer Wells has been missing for 5 months. No new leads and basically no new information since the 5-year-old vanished from her Northeast Tennessee home.
I can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Summer's been missing since June 15th, and there are definitely some people who are not happy that we've come here to dig into the case. Some people on social media basically just telling us to stay away. There are still so many unanswered questions about where Summer is. It's now been 5 months since Summer Wells disappeared. Do your investigators know anything more now than they did 5 months ago?
We really don't know anything more, but everything's still on the table.
Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson is in charge of the investigation.
Everybody that's involved in this case is a person of interest. We've not ruled anyone out.
Summer's dad, Don Wells, agreed to meet with us. We talked to him on the edge of his property, where Summer disappeared. What do you think happened? What does your heart tell you?
Well, I know in my heart and in my mind she was abducted. Someone snuck up there when we weren't exactly paying attention, and we don't know if they come in the basement and grabbed her, or if she stepped outside the basement and was walking to her swing or something.
You can see the Wells house up through the trees on the hill right here. Summer was home with her mom, Candace. Her younger brothers and her grandmother was also on the property. And what the family thinks happened is that someone took Summer, brought her down this steep embankment to possibly a car that was waiting in the roadway.
And I said, boys, where's your sister at? Well, she just went downstairs, Mom, to play. So I went over here like this.
Summer's mom, Candace, allowed podcaster Chris McDonough with the interview room into her home in July.
Is this how I would get down here?
Yep.
I don't know if you want to come down here or not.
They went downstairs in the cluttered house and into Summer's bedroom.
But this is where Summer and little Waylon was.
This is the back door Summer may have disappeared through.
But I know I did come out here and I said, Summer, because sometimes she'll sit right here.
Do you think Candace would speak with me?
I don't know. I mean, we had to beg her, you know, to please go on Dr. Phil, because she's just so been burnt thousands of times by people. So that's why she don't want to talk to nobody, and she didn't want to go on Dr. Phil. That's why she was getting upset. Because of the way the YouTubers and other people have turned on her, they've just ruined her.
Very sorry for the occasion.
The Wells were on Dr. Phil last week, and at one point, Candace walked off.
I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, I want to go home.
I'm down.
questions have come up about what Candace might know. Could she have gotten herself into a situation where it wasn't her fault, but...
No.
You know what I mean?
No. She's a good mother. She loves her children. She's not going to allow any situation like that. The biggest mistake she might have made is maybe choosing some wrong friends, which is, it happens. But other than that, no way.
Do you think any of those wrong friends could have something to do with it?
We don't know.
I know you all have had some ups and downs in your past with alcohol and drugs. Do you think one of those people that came around could have?
No, we can't go there.
It was interesting because after that part of the interview, Don Wells, Summer's dad, actually agreed to take us on a tour of his property, but then later changed his mind and said that he wouldn't take us on the property because he thought it would make his wife Candace too upset. At the end of the day, obviously, we're all just hoping that Summer is found alive. Again, the reward is now up to $70,000.
Oh, hi there, CrimeCon. It's James Renner with the new podcast, True Crime This Week, which looks at the top true crime stories in the world. Every week on Friday morning, we do a recap. And looking back, the year 2021 was quite the year for true crime stories. They seemed to get weirder and weirder as the year went by. Alec Baldwin shot and killed a person. Who would have predicted that? And then you have the Cleo Smith case, this 4-year-old girl who was abducted in Western Australia, only to be found in the home of a 36-year-old man who was collecting dolls and may have been collecting her as a living doll. Then Zodiac was solved, or not. Spoiler alert, not. And you have a crazy guy in a jetpack zooming and through LAX, the airport out in California. The FBI are trying to track this guy and figure out where he got this powerful jetpack. They call him the real Iron Man. So join me for True Crime This Week for the latest stories. And here's to 2022 being even weirder than this one.